Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. The big news the last couple of days has been whistleblower David Grusch again. And again, he's getting his name dragged through the mud, particularly by the debunker cult. And this is because John Greenwald of the Black Vault had received some documents via the Freedom of Information Act. And those documents paint a picture that shows that the AARO office was very interested in getting David Grusch into their office so they could interview him. And actually, it's a good thing that he never was interviewed by them because they never satisfied his concerns. That was one of the issues here for him. He was never given all the assurances that he needed before he went talking to AARO. I think that AARO's reasoning for wanting Grusch in there actually was they wanted to try to make a fool out of him. That's basically one of the other good reasons why he didn't show up there. I mean, when you consider the historical records report that was released earlier this year by AARO, which was put together under the direction of the former director, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, it basically all these different whistleblowers that had met with AARO, he had answers for all of it, but he didn't really provide any backup proof to prove what he was saying was true. And, you know, for one thing, he actually did comment also on the Roswell incident from 1947, and he basically still tries to say that it was that the Air Force was right back in the 1990s when they stated that people got confused with dummies and balloons back in 1947, which is absolutely absurd, which I talked about in a series of previous podcasts. I'm not going to get into it here today. But actually, Grusch dodged a bullet here, I believe, because he had some concerns and he wasn't getting the assurances that he wanted. And anyway, there was a lot of different kinds of information that came out of this FOIA request that Greenwald. I'll give Greenwald credit for getting this information, but I have to take some points away from him because of his conclusions. I don't think that he before he published his article, I don't think he looked at this information close enough to understand why Grusch wasn't cooperating with AARO. Now, apparently, based on this documentation, Grusch did try to reach out to Sean Kirkpatrick some months before he actually testified before the House committee last year. Kirkpatrick pretty much denied that based on some of these. There was some text messages back and forth between Christopher Mellon and Sean Kirkpatrick, and we're going to get into some of that too. But before we do, I just want to go through a little bit of John Greenewald's article that he published yesterday. He basically put down a timeline of how the different things that AARO did in its effort to contact Grusch and get him in there so they could interview him about his claims. But none of it ever worked, and there were reasons for that. But apparently Greenwald didn't see those reasons and went along with AARO's side of the story. Basically, he's someone who is basically pro-Pentagon at this point. That's what it looks like to me, unfortunately. I give him credit for his FOIA efforts, but outside of that, that's it. I really can't give him any more credit beyond that. Because he should have did a little bit more homework before writing an article, putting something together like this that basically it doesn't give you it's not objective. You know, it's just not objective. I mean, of course, Grusch is not talking to, he won't return calls to John Greenewald, but that shouldn't matter. Greenewald, there's more information that Greenewald could have included in his piece here that would have balanced out his article a little bit better, but he didn't. He failed to do that, and basically wrote a pro AARO article here. That AARO, poor AARO, they tried so hard to get Grusch in there, and he never showed up, even though they provided him guaranteed assurances that he would not get in trouble for relating all the information that he has, which is not the case. That is not the case, and we are going to go through that. And I'm going to show you why it's not the case. And another interesting thing before we get into this was the idea that they actually included in this FOIA release text messages back and forth between Christopher Mellon and and Sean Kirkpatrick, as well as some other messages between Sean Kirkpatrick and we don't know who the other people were that he was talking with there, but there was some messages going back and forth between these people. And Christopher Mellon, he's the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, and he was basically, Mellon was serving as an in-between between AARO and Grusch, and he was, providing information to Kirkpatrick about whether or not Grusch is going to meet with AARO to talk about his claims or not, and they're trying to set that up, and it never came to fruition, and we will get to the reasons why later. But I just want to point out there were some very interesting things in the document itself. One of the things that stood out to me in some of the back and forth banter between Mellon and Kirkpatrick. At one point, there was concerns that Mellon was relating to Kirkpatrick that Grusch had about meeting with AARO, and one of the responses from Kirkpatrick was, there is a significant misconception about the authorities in question. The Title 50 authorities we done have are for CI purposes, not taking in information. CI purposes, I'm assuming CI is confidential informant purposes, but not taking in information. So that tells me right there. I mean, that would raise a red flag to me right there. I mean, you're saying Title 50 authorities we done have. I think he meant to say the Title 50 authorities we have are for CI purposes, not taking in information. Okay, if you don't have Title 50 authority to take in information, then why would Grusch go in there? Because you're talking about something that's top secret, obviously. And the stuff that he was talking about when he was under oath last year was he couldn't tell Congress everything. He can't tell them. He couldn't even tell them everything when he met with them privately, when he met with them in secure facilities and they had closed sessions with him. He couldn't tell them everything. Apparently, the only people he told was the Inspector General of the intelligence community and potentially the Department of Defense intelligence community Inspector General. But outside of those two, I don't think that it doesn't look like he was able to provide all of the information that he has with regard to this to the intelligence committees when he met with them privately in the House last year. And another interesting aspect to this was the fact that they were communicating like this, like that Kirkpatrick was communicating with Mellon, among other people, using an app called Signal. And I have that Signal app on my phone as well. But I thought Lou Elizondo made an interesting, he was replying to a comment that Christopher Mellon put on Twitter yesterday. Christopher Mellon wrote, "To my surprise, parts of a conversation I had with Dr. Kirkpatrick on Signal were recently made public via a FOIA request. These messages simply relate to my effort to facilitate a meeting between AARO and Dave Grusch at Dr. Kirkpatrick's request." And Lou Elizondo responded saying, "Chris, I wonder when did the Department of Defense authorize Kirkpatrick to use the Signal app for official United States business and correspondence? You and I would have been crucified for doing that while we were in the government. And when did they allow personal identifiable info of U.S. citizens to be released contrary to Privacy Act of 1974? I guess it's more of the same regarding rules that apply to thee but not to me." Yeah, that was a nice point there, I thought, that Lou Elizondo made, that they're using those, Kirkpatrick is communicating this via a Signal app with Christopher Mellon. Shouldn't it have been more secure when you're talking about something about reverse engineering programs and crash retrieval programs and whistleblower comments and whistleblower claims? I mean, shouldn't it be more secure than using a Signal app? I guess they're allowed to get away with it when you're in the secrecy group, which apparently Kirkpatrick is part of, right? So I thought that was interesting. But when you go through the article from John Greenewald, at one point toward the end of it, he was talking about like he basically comes to the conclusion here that AARO did everything. They bent over backwards, and Grusch still wouldn't go in and meet with them and talk about what he learned, and they're really upset. They tried everything, but he just refused to do it, and they gave him all the assurances he needed. Basically, that's the way this article is written, but that's bogus. That's bogus. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Actually, there was a paragraph toward the end which I want to focus on. He says, Another document in the FOIA release is the memorandum confirming AARO's authority to receive and handle all UAP-related information, regardless of its classification. This memorandum, signed by Major General David Abba, Director of the Department of Defense Special Access Program Central Office, or DoD SAPCO, explicitly states that AARO representatives are authorized to engage with individuals who possess sensitive United States government information about UAPs, even if bound by non-disclosure agreements. This document is crucial because it directly counters Grusch's claim of legal and security risks in cooperating with AARO, providing a clear legal basis for AARO's ability to hear details about his story. Now, that's really not that's not true, though. I mean, when you look at the rest of the when you look at the full FOIA, in all the FOIA documents related to this, there's a lot of different email messages back and forth between AARO and Grusch, and he's trying to get them to, give him these assurances, and they're just not giving them to him. They just would not give him these assurances that he was seeking, and he kept on trying. He states explicitly what he was seeking, and they weren't giving them to him. And I want to go into that a little bit. Actually, we're going to jump forward here to page 19. Actually, yeah. They actually thought they were going to meet with Grusch on November 14th of last year, and Grusch never showed up. And obviously, he didn't show up because he was telling them in these emails that, hey, I need this, and this, and before I could do anything here, and they apparently were too dense to understand what he was trying to say to them. I think it's pretty clear here. Here was a message from Grusch sent on Monday, November 13th at 12:24 p.m. It says here, good morning, thank you. This is somebody in the AARO office. It says here, thank you for sending these items. As a former agency-level SAPMO and CAPCO, I take security policies very seriously. SAPMO is the Special Access Program Management. He was a Special Access Program Manager, Management Officer, as well as CAPCO is the Controlled Access Program Central Office. He says he takes his these security policies very seriously, and in the DoD SAPCO memo, the term UAP related is not defined. And then it says here FY 23 NDAA section 1673 subsection B defines it as the following. He's talking about the National Defense Authorization Act of 2023, where it talks about this the AARO office and what it can and can't do. It says here, but it's UAP related. It says any activity or program by a department or agency of the federal government or a contractor of such a department or agency relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena, including with respect to material retrieval, material analysis, reverse engineering, research and development, detection and tracking, developmental or operational testing, and security protections and enforcement. And then Grusch goes on to write, he says here, the key issue here is that many of these activities have conventional classified and compartmented security classification guides that also cover non-UAP activities as well. To discuss the UAP-related activities would also expose these conventional Special Access Program mission areas. An oral history interview subject must also be absolved of this obligation to protect this information as well. Some of it may be bigoted or waived. And then it goes on to say, furthermore, as discussed Friday, I am seeking it's an ODNI CAPCO determination, which is an Office of the Director of National Intelligence determination, to absolve an oral history interview subject of any NDAs relating to UAP related and adjacent, as stated above, intelligence communities controlled access program information. Additionally, in my particular case, in order to horizontally protect a portion of my oral history testimony previously provided to the Intelligence Community Inspector General and the Intelligence Committees, we would need to conduct the interview at this restricted handling level area. Basically, it's a HCS operations O restricted handling level. So he was talking about where it needs to be held at. And it says here, as has the CIA Office of Security, or OS, or Directorate of Operations, DO, provided a memo in this regard for oral history interview subjects. Has the OS provided a memo to also cover managed need-to-know projects not directly reported to ODNI CAPCO? And then he goes on. Lastly, what signed policy does AARO have to receive non-Title 10 SAPs, which is non-Title 10, which would be Title 50. He's talking about non-Title 10, which would be the next one up would be Title 50. He has these other questions. He's wondering if does the National Security Council Security Director of the National Program Management Staff, or the Department of Energy, SAPCO, provided a memo similar to the Department of Defense SAPCO memo you provided. So he has these questions, and they're not providing him with the answers that he wants. I mean, in fact, if you look at what the short answer that he received from someone at AARO, it says, Mr. Grusch, the law is clear in that we can receive information at all classification levels. We can discuss this when you come in. And then he didn't go in. He actually wrote back. He says, with all due respect, I will need answers to my questions before I will be comfortable meeting. Please provide responses so that we can hopefully move forward and schedule a meeting. The law may grant your office need to know, but does not establish policies and procedures with various data owners. I have managed multi-compartmented activities throughout my entire career and have multiple Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency security professional certifications. I did not ask these questions for mere curiosity. And that response was on November 14th. This was after he was supposed to show up. He was supposed to show up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he never did because he didn't feel like he was ready to go in there. He didn't feel like they gave him the assurances that he needed. So I don't see like why is, like, when you read John Greenewald's article and he's talking about this letter from this Major General David Abba. I mean, that doesn't really cover it all. I mean, if you look at the letter, I'm going to scroll down to the letter here. It's actually at the bottom of this page, at the bottom of this FOIA information. It says here, and this was something that was actually this memorandum came out March of 2023. It says here, representatives of the All-domain Anomaly Resolution Office are authorized to speak to persons and or conduct interviews of persons that currently have or previously had access to sensitive United States government information, activities, and or materials. 2. Individuals with current or previous access to unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP-related information, which is subject to a United States government non-disclosure agreement, are authorized to provide this otherwise protected information to AARO representatives. AARO personnel are authorized to receive this information pursuant to Section 1673 of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2023. The provision of UAP-related information, which is subject to a non-disclosure agreement to AARO personnel, constitutes an authorized disclosure if the information is provided and received for the limited purpose of conducting AARO's assigned mission as specified in Section 1683 of the NDAA for fiscal year 2022, as amended by Section 6802 of the NDAA for fiscal year 2023. I know, all of this sounds confusing, and I think it's designed to confuse, actually. But I actually did check out all of these things, the NDAA for 2023, which he's referring to here, Section 1673, and we'll get into that in a minute. But before we do, I want to continue with what the general wrote here. He says, AARO representatives will conduct any conversation, interview, or disclosure of United States government sensitive information by an individual only within appropriate secure spaces and handled in accordance with the regulations applicable to the alleged classification level of the potentially sensitive information discussed. Example, if the individual providing the information indicates that he or she believes the information to be shared is classified, and then it has top secret, but it's crossed out. That right there raises a red flag in my head. Anyway, it says, we'll read that again. As example, if the individual providing the information indicates that he or she believes the information to be shared is classified, and then top secret's crossed out, special access required, the AARO representatives will handle the information in accordance with such a level at intake and until the classification can be determined. And then finally, the last one says here, persons in contact with or interviewed by AARO representatives are advised that they are to continue safeguarding classified and sensitive information in accordance with United States law and the terms of any applicable non-disclosure agreement. An individual's authorized disclosure of sensitive information to AARO representatives as outlined in this memorandum in no way impacts that individual's responsibility to protect and safeguard classified information from unauthorized disclosure. Now, see, now Grusch apparently, when you read his one of his emails to Arrow addressing his concerns, I mean, he's saying that he's not sure about this. He's saying that some of these activities go outside of the UAP stuff, and there's nothing in any of these laws, any of these anything in the code or anything in the NDAA that covers that. That's what he's concerned about. He's really concerned about this, and this guy is obviously very intelligent. I mean, he knows what he's talking about here with these things, and he doesn't want to share information. Some of this information that he has related to UAP apparently crosses over into other areas, other classified top secret areas. But you have to wonder, I was looking at all these different things. I actually went to I was actually looking at I went to the page where I went to the bill, the National Defense Authorization Act of 2023, and I looked up this section 1623. I'm pulling it up on the screen right now. And it establishes all. It says here, the same thing that Grusch was talking about before. It's any event relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena and any activity or program by a department or agency of the federal government or a contractor of such a department or agency relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena, including with respect to material retrieval, material analysis, blah, blah, blah. That was the same thing that Grusch was talking about in his email from last November. And then later on, it talks about authorized disclosures. It says here, what is an authorized disclosure? It says, an authorized disclosure is shall not be subject to a non-disclosure agreement entered into by the individual who makes the disclosure. So that means that Grusch, had he gone into Arrow, he would not have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Although there are rumors going around saying that he might have been asked to do this. We don't know if that's true or not, but that's apparently one of the rumors around at this time. And also, what is an authorized disclosure? B, it shall be deemed to comply with any regulation or order issued under the authority of Executive Order 13526. Which is under Title 50 of the United States Code. And also it says here 3161 note relating to classified national security information, or Chapter 18 of the Atomic Energy Act of 1954. And C is not a violation of Section 798 of Title 18 United States Code or other provision of law relating to the disclosure of information. So that bill, the National Defense Authorization Act, made it legal basically for whistleblowers to relay this information to Arrow with regard to UAP, and they wouldn't have to be concerned that they wouldn't be breaking any laws. But again, this is the way this is written. This is a little bit confusing to me. It says authorized disclosure. An authorized disclosure shall be deemed to comply with any regulation or order issued under the authority of Executive Order 13526, which is part of the Title 50 of the United States Code. I'm not sure exactly what that paragraph means, or how somebody might argue it might mean something else. But anyway, and it also says though it is not a violation of Section 798 of Title 18 United States Code or other provision of law relating to the disclosure of information. Now, I actually looked up all of these codes and also the executive orders, because I wanted to see what they say. Now, so I went to the United States Code here, in Executive Order 13526. That talks about that. It says here regarding that. It says this order prescribes a uniform system of classifying, safeguarding, and declassifying national security information, including information relating to defense against transnational terrorism. Our democratic principles require that the American people be informed of the activities of their government. Also, our nation's progress depends on the free flow of information both within the government and to the American people. Nevertheless, throughout our history, the national defense has required that certain information be maintained in confidence in order to protect our citizens, our democratic institutions, our homeland security, and our interactions with foreign nations. Protecting information critical to our nation's security and demonstrating our commitment to open government through accurate and accountable application of classification standards and routine, secure, and effective declassification are equally important priorities. Then it goes on. It talks about the different classification, the classification standards, the classification levels, top secret, secret, confidential, and so on and so forth. Classification authority, who could deem something classified. It has all that information here. It's very there's a lot to read here, actually. But anyway, I'm gonna now, if you want to talk about the other Title 18. In Title 18, 798, disclosure of classified information. Now Grusch was concerned. He's expressing concerns. He was trying to get all his ducks in order. He wanted to make sure that everything was going to be okay. That when he went into AARO and he provided the information that they wanted, he wanted to make sure that if something went beyond some aspects of the information that he has, apparently it goes outside of UAP related. In his mind, and he just wanted to get those assurances. AARO never provided him those assurances, and had he gone in there and gave information, potentially, had he given this information, he could end up with in big time trouble. This is under Title 18, under Section 798. It says here, disclosure of classified information. Whoever knowingly and willfully communicates, furnishes, transmits, or otherwise makes available to an unauthorized person, or publishes, or uses in any manner prejudicial to the safety or interest of the United States, or for the benefit of any foreign government, to the detriment of the United States, any classified information concerning the nature, preparation, or use of any code, cipher, or cryptographic system of the United States or any foreign government, or concerning the design, construction, use, maintenance, or repair of any device, apparatus, or appliance used or prepared or planned for use by the U.S. or any foreign government for cryptographic or communication intelligence purposes, or concerning the communication intelligence activities of the United States or any foreign government, or obtained by the processes of communication intelligence from the communications of any foreign government, knowing the same to have been obtained by such processes, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And it goes on like that. So if you disclose classified information to someone who's unauthorized to receive that information, then you're looking at potentially a 10-year sentence in prison or fine. So I could understand why Grusch didn't want to, he wanted to have all his T's crossed and I's dotted. So I don't understand what the issue is here. And there's other aspects to this too. I mean, I'm going to leave links for all of these things. I mean, this is really difficult to try to understand all of this. I mean, to try to wade through all of this bureaucratic red tape that actually someone like Grusch has to be concerned about when you're talking about the most highly classified secret the United States has ever had. It's the fact that there's something on this planet that's not human. It's the biggest story of all time, as we all know, and that they are reverse engineering these things, and they are retrieving the crafts before they do so, right? And Grusch was just trying to make sure that he wasn't going to get in trouble. I mean, how could you trust AARO? How could anyone trust AARO at this point? I mean, the Pentagon picks Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, who's nothing but a puppet for them, obviously, right? He's been lying about all this stuff, obviously, right? Obviously lying about it. He's the one who's been lying. Why do they want Grusch in there so bad? Actually, the inspector. Well, why couldn't they get the information by other means? David Grusch suggested that they get the transcript from the Intelligence Community Inspector General. Why couldn't they do that? I mean, why does he have to go in and speak with them? Why can't they just get the information from via other means? Why was it so important to them? I think it was important. It could have been for the reasons like I'm talking about here. This could have been a way to put him in a trap. I mean, this could be a way to make it that that he's gonna end up in trouble over this. Who knows? I mean, obviously, I would be concerned about this too. Any whistleblower should be concerned. Any whistleblower right now should be concerned about AARO completely at this point, because how could you trust them after reading that bogus report earlier this year? That was junk. And what was the reasoning? Why did they need to have him come in for this so badly? Of course, they wanted to try to. I'm sure that they were going to try what they would have done. They would have done the same kind of job with whatever he told them, with how they presented that historical records report. You would have got the same nonsense like that, or maybe worse. Again, he could have been looking at jail time, looking at prison for up to 10 years, perhaps. You told the wrong people. You don't know, and then maybe they would have. For all we know, they might have blackmailed them with it. Who knows what they would have done with it. I don't see how anybody could, at this point, like I've said before, I'll say it again. You cannot trust the Pentagon when it comes to UFOs. You just can't trust them because they're not going to tell you about it. They've been lying about it for all these years, and it doesn't seem there's most certainly a faction now within the government that does not want this information out, and they'll do anything to keep the status quo. They want to keep things as they are. Now, of course, there's obviously others within the government that want this information out and believe it's time that the world knows about it. That's what it seems like to me. But also, I just want to point out one other thing. John Greenewald at the Black Vault, he actually commented about after the fact. After his article came out yesterday, he wrote on Twitter. He says some people need to come to grips with the absolutely reality. I think he meant to say absolute reality. Some people need to come to grips with the absolute reality that some people inside the government and some of those who used to work for the government are not being fully truthful with us all about UAP/UFOs. Accept that and start asking why. It's beyond time to do so. Let me stop there. You don't know why, John, at this point in your life, you don't know why? Well, let me tell you something. I'll tell you why, right? Because there's something here, right? And they don't want to talk about it. They've been reverse engineering their craft. They don't want to talk about how they've been lying for all these decades. And let me tell you another thing. When you see these things in action, right? When you see how these the kind of craft they're flying around and what these beings themselves are capable of doing, you can understand why the Department of Defense doesn't want to talk about this publicly. Actually, I just a little over 2 weeks ago, about 2.5 weeks ago, I released on this podcast. I released what I believe is the absolute end-all evidence, as far as I'm concerned, right? That shows that there's a non-human intelligent presence on this planet. I had Scott Roeder, a crime scene reconstruction expert. He looked at that Las Vegas alien video from last year, and he determined that there was most certainly alien beings in the yard. A being shows up behind the fence, behind this fence, as this family goes back, tries to go into the backyard. You have the evidence is there. That's the reason why the government's not talking about this. Obviously, look at the technology that they have. They're able to cloak. They have cloaking technology to make themselves invisible to the human eye, apparently. And actually to make themselves invisible to cell phones by at least up to 66%. They actually have that ability. That's the kind of technology that they have. It's unheard of technology. It's beyond anything that we have. That's why they're keeping this secret, because they're trying to figure out what the aliens have already developed. They're trying to figure out that technology. That's what it's all about. Don't you know this yet? So people are beyond the skeptics at this point. They are absurd at this point. You have your head in the sand. You're so dumb it's beyond belief. That the people are there's too many people right now who are just too stupid about this. And obviously, the evidence that I presented just a little over 2 weeks ago with regard to this, that should end this whole debate anyhow. The evidence is there. It's a done deal. You could see. I mean, there's no response. The mainstream media they're not talking about it. I sent that all that evidence out to a bunch of different outlets at this point. Nobody wants to talk about it. Why not? Because they're afraid. They're afraid to talk about it. No one's going to be able to debunk Scott Roeder's scientific proof that he assembled. Nobody's going to be able to debunk it. That's why they don't want to talk about it. No expert. No, you might have some internet keyboard warriors who think they know everything. They don't know anything. The truth of the matter is that there is people out there, experts now, not just Scott Roeder, but his assistant, Luis Castillo, who holds a doctorate in computer animation, who determined that there was certainly a being in that yard that night. Those people, that Kenmore family, they weren't lying. The craft that came down, the craft that was filmed, didn't have a heat signature. It made a noise as it was coming down to the ground. And then on top of it, you have family members who filmed these. We caught at least two beings on camera, and there's probably more in the background. In fact, I'm pretty certain about it. But we have evidence guaranteed evidence of the one being standing behind the fence using cloaking technology. It's evidence. There's a non-human intelligent presence on this planet. There's no doubt about it. The government knows about this. They don't want to tell you about this. They don't want to stand up in front of a podium and say there's beings from we don't know where here, and they have technology that we can't even dream of at this point. They could make themselves invisible to you. They're not going to want to talk about that. But the evidence is there already. But getting back to what the main story here tonight, I just want to say I believe that Grusch did the right thing. I mean, why would he take that chance if he was sending out in those emails, and that email right when he was supposed to meet with these people, he's supposed to meet with AARO. He sends out this email. He has a lot of concerns listed in there, and they didn't address them. But yet we have an article here from John Greenewald who says this. Let's read it again. Let's just go through this again so we know what he's saying here. Let's see what John Greenewald's saying, how he got it so wrong again. Let's talk about it. He says here, another document in the FOIA release is the memorandum confirming AARO's authority to receive and handle all UAP-related information regardless of its classification. The memorandum, signed by Major General David Abba, explicitly states that AARO representatives are authorized to engage with individuals who possess sensitive U.S. government information about UAP, even if bound by non-disclosure agreements. And then he goes on to say this. He says, this document is crucial because it directly counters Grusch's claims of legal and security risks in cooperating with AARO, providing a clear legal basis for AARO's ability to hear details about his story. But he doesn't talk about what Grusch was concerned about. He just makes this statement. Now, Now you're going to tell me that John Greenewald he's acting like a puppet for AARO. That's what he's doing. He likes this. He likes the position he's in, apparently, right? Because it gives him access. They're granting his FOIA request. They wanted him to get this information. And it's just so disingenuous. It's so disingenuous. Greenwald needs to take a good long look in the mirror. That's what this guy needs to do. He needs to take a good long look in the mirror. And you know what? Here, I know what they're going to do, right? They're going to see this video, or they're going to see this podcast. They're going to say, here's what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you stuff like, oh, this guy's a crackpot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh, his video evidence doesn't count. His experts don't count. Mick West said it's raccoons and coyotes in the backyard. Mick West said it was a meteor. Mick West is an idiot. Let me tell you, Mick West is a disingenuous fool. That's who he is. Right, all of these people, they're dummies, right? They don't want to accept it, or for some reason they think they look smart by acting like there's nothing to this. But you're not smart. You look dumb. It looks stupid to me. It looks stupid to a lot of people out there. We're sick of it. We're sick of this disingenuous garbage that you keep throwing out there like this. Yeah. I'm tired of it, actually. I mean, I do respect John Greenewald for the ability to go out there and file all these Freedom of Information Act requests. But then to come out with an article like this, basically, it's just not objective. He basically takes one side of it. He doesn't look at the big picture. He's incapable of seeing the big picture. He didn't take enough time to consider the evidence that he had in his hands and think about it for a minute before he went writing this. Instead, he wanted to be a nice, good boy for the Pentagon, right, and write that little article up and get everyone all worked up. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's all it is. That's what it seems like to me. And I know he'll deny all this, and he'll probably block me on Twitter. You know what? I don't care. Who cares? But I feel bad actually for David Grusch. He's doing what he presented information already. He's already done it. Why take anything down? How can anybody trust AARO at all at this point? Anyhow, it doesn't even make sense. AARO's garbage. It's even worse than Project Blue Book. It's actually they're designed to try to put this back into the Pandora's box. That's all it is. That's all it is. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up here. I just want to say I just think that there's a lot more to these documents. I think you should check them out. Check out John's story. He has links on his website. I'll leave the link to his page here. You could check out the entire document. You could read this. It's fascinating to see all the text going back and forth between Christopher Mellon and Sean Kirkpatrick. I think that's fascinating. This whole thing is fascinating to me, but at the same time, they're just playing. We're playing this dumb game here. That's all it is. We're playing this stupid game. We have all this bureaucratic red tape, top secret red tape that people have to work their way through to get to the truth, and we're never going to get to the truth through the government. But doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore because we have the evidence. We know that there's something here now. No one's ever going to be able to refute that evidence that was presented just a couple of weeks ago on this show, as well as on Scott Roeder's YouTube channel. Nobody's going to ever be able to refute it. They won't even try. If they try, they're going to make fools out of themselves. And we will be able to show. We will be able to show, right? Scott Roeder will be able to show, along with the people working for him, the experts that he has working for him, right? They will be able to show when somebody goes and makes a fool out of themselves, they'll be able to show how they made a fool out of themselves. No one's ever going to try to refute it, but the evidence is out there for right now for the whole world to see. There's an alien presence on this planet. Where they come from, nobody knows. I think they're extraterrestrial. I think they're from other planets, right? But who knows? The government knows. They have a better idea than the regular people out there. And they're not sharing that information, and they're playing these dumb games with us. That's what they're doing, playing dumb games. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.